Your phone says Vermont. You're going to have to explain. I'm going to need a little information there, Spencer. You from Vermont?
I actually grew up in southern New Hampshire. Kind of gravitated towards Boston. And then when I was 40, I moved to Vermont. And I moved here from Vermont.
So you grew up in Boston? Is that right? I grew
up in New Hampshire.
I see. Mm-hmm. Okay. What was it like and what happened and what's it like now? When did you get sober? How old were you?
I was 48.
Oh, okay.
So I came to sobriety pretty late.
Oh, you were done. The fun part was over, buddy. Mm-hmm. Hate to break it to you, but the fun...
I had some game, but...
Well, for me, I just couldn't switch it off. I was so addicted.
Yeah.
I knew it was, you really couldn't tell me a lot about how stupid and awful and harmful what I was doing was. I couldn't stop. I also can't stop breathing air and eating food.
True.
I couldn't.
True. Yeah.
Wow, 48. Okay. So at some point, enough was enough.
Enough was enough.
What happened?
Things just started to become inconsistent. Alcohol, my old solid buddy, my friend who made me feel better all the time, just started to, my body, I don't know if it was my body got older or if, it just was time. But it started to hit me in an inconsistent way. I mean, sometimes I would drink and it was like I was drinking water, and other times it would hit me really hard.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen it in my friends who still drink that get stupid after one drink, and then they would go back into lucidity after drinking a while. I don't know enough about body chemistry, but
I suspect it's something along those lines. Okay.
So did you come in under your own steam, or did somebody drag you in the way it happened to me?
I pretty much came in under my own steam.
Pretty much.
There definitely were some nudges. Ultimately, and I thought I understood the whole 12-step thing, but I totally didn't. I had I had a lot of alcoholism, and I think a lot of us have it in their families, their family histories. So, I just...
Did you grow up in a house with a drunk parent? Because I did.
I had definitely two parents that partied.
Okay.
And, and I think a lot of that was the early 60s, right? So, the mid 60s.
That's
and,
right.
We didn't know a lot of what we know today. I mean, people drank all through pregnancies, and, it just was another thing.
Okay.
I think, there was that aspect to it. I don't know if it's genetics or environment, but we definitely, we weren't a teetotaling household. That's for sure.
Okay.
That's for sure. So, and, I think, and I'm extremely lucky. I have, two siblings that are in sobriety.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. My mom's in sobriety. Not to out her.
No way.
I was pretty much the last to make my way in here. But
your mom, okay. She's still around. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Okay. How old is your mom?
88.
And she's go to meetings and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That rocks.
For sure. Yeah. It's great. We actually do a meeting a week online together, which is fun.
You mutually attend like a bigger meeting, or you have a little, okay.
Mm-hmm. Which is great. But I'm super grateful that I have siblings that are in sobriety, because it's almost like we communicate on a different level. Part of it's, I guess, the language of 12 steps and, the desire to sort of be present, but it's really interesting. I mean, we resolve issues very quickly, and we're able to, be not very dramatic about stuff. And it's
beautiful.
Great. Yeah. It's
really hard to overstate how important that is, and how beautiful. Life is so short, and to walk around with resentment or estranged, not talking to a family member.
Right. It's easy to do when you slip into drama land.
In there.
Yeah, exactly. Over some perceived slight. And we've actually also been super lucky in that I have a niece who just celebrated 1 year.
Isn't 1 year
2
the
weeks
best?
ago. Yeah.
I'm an old timer, and when I hear somebody say I just took, 1 year, it just sends me reeling back to those days. There's absolutely nothing. I don't really remember my 24th year or my 18th year, but I remember my first year. Holy crap. I remember every day.
Yeah, it really was a roller coaster, wasn't it?
Did you do an inpatient thing?
Nope.
Okay.
Just, came to meetings. And, I knew that AA was there and I knew that AA was where I should go. I actually, went to the therapist because that's what we do, right? Because I'm so special. And I had this, I was lucky enough to find a person who really specialized in substance abuse issues.
I see.
So she was very typical. If you called up central casting and you asked for send me a Jewish grandmother, that was the therapist that I saw in Montpelier, Vermont. And I remember she had an office at the top of these long, creaky stairs, and I went up and, and I swore to myself that I just was going to be totally honest about how much I drank and how I drank and stuff like that.
Interesting. And you were?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
okay.
Totally.
All right.
Yeah. And, she said, I think a lot of what what you do is you're in a routine and you're not, when you go for that next glass of wine, it's a habit. It's not even, you're not making a conscious decision to have it. So she was super helpful to me. Of course, was slightly devious in that she said, I need to get some AA schedules. Would you go to a meeting to pick some up?
Wow. So come on.
Out of obligation and being a good guy, right?
You're a pretty smart fella. You must have smelled ulterior motive. No, you didn't.
I did, totally
Just
didn't.
being a gentleman. I was brought up to say no, sir, and yes, ma'am.
Exactly.
Hold doors open. Bring coffee to podcast
That's
interviewers, which puts you in a category by yourself. Hint, hint. Anybody else that's coming up next?
Bring coffee.
Yeah, strong and dark. Okay, so I'm jumping tracks here. This is the first in-depth conversation I've ever had with you.
Yeah.
I think that you're one of the guys that started an incredibly popular and beloved Zoom meeting called Boozers and Bathrobes. Do I have that right?
True. Yes.
Is this? No. I'm not going to go there. I'm not here to discuss anybody else's anonymity or anything like that. But I will say that I've never talked about this on the show. I got a job I was on, a movie I was on the 11th of March, 2020. I went into a recording studio to do some stuff for an upcoming shoot for a pilot. And on the 12th, my agent called me and said, I work in the film business in New Mexico today. My agent called me and said, did you hear that everything in Los Angeles is shut down? The studios are all closed. Nothing. Mm-hmm. No, I hadn't heard that. She said, yeah, so stand by for further word because you may not, I don't know, but it doesn't look great. The next day was Friday the 13th of 2020. And she called me up and said, look, you're going to get paid. The check's coming. Everybody's being cool about it, but you are out of work. You got nothing. And I do not. It's like the day where I was when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan or when JFK got shot or 9/11 or something like that. I'm not trying to make it about me. All I can say is I was cooking along on a job I was thrilled to be in, and then I was out of work and the whole world shut down. Of course. Yeah. We're starting to forget, man, that we were spraying doorknobs, getting groceries delivered and leaving them in the thing for a week. Not going in the same bedroom as our kids and stuff when nobody had anything. We didn't know anything. The vaccine was far in the future. Very strange time.
It really was. I mean, that was a monster dislocation.
And I, like day one went, I think I've heard of online meetings. Maybe there's a website I can go to. The word Zoom had never, it was nothing. Now, that was on about, the 13th or 14th of the month. And by a week later, I had the hang of Zoom and I had the app downloaded and I was going to meetings. I remember one, I was asked to speak at I'll be bleeping that out. I'll either just snip it out or you'll hear this. Technology. They said, can you talk at a meeting and it's headquartered out of Panama City? And I said, well, I like Florida. That's pretty cool. And I went on there. It was in Panama.
It was?
Yeah, man. So that's, and I've been in meetings in the north of England and so on. It's, I know that not everyone shares my love for Zoom recovery meetings. I love them.
Me too.
And you and a former guest or one of our first guests, the terrific Barry G. Check out his episodes. We love our Barry. You guys, what happened? Tell me about Boozers and Bathrobes, because you struck oil, buddy. It's so popular.
It's really amazing to me, the popularity of it. I mean, when we were all locked down, I think, that was the only game in town.
Spring of 2020.
Spring of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we started March 17th. I think St. Patrick's Day is.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So it was Friday the 13th when the governor sort of started to lock everything down. And we were realizing, I think out of desperation, it's like sort of what are we going to do without meetings? If we're not able to physically get together.
Were you hip to Zoom yet?
No.
Okay. Me either. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so we, as the central office here in Santa Fe, we needed to sort of figure out how to do something. And so we researched it, found Zoom. I think we probably were all set up by Tuesday with a Zoom license and ready to go. We created 3 meetings, 3 daily meetings. We had a 7 a.m. meeting, which I think we called it the eye opener for a day. And then Barry G came up with the name Boozers and Bathrobes. We had a noon meeting that was called Odds and Ends. And then we had a 6 o'clock meeting that was called Mixed Nuts. So those were the 3 sort of daily meetings that we just sort of put out there.
Gotcha.
Because here, locally, 7 a.m. is a popular meeting time. Noon is a popular meeting time. And then 6 o'clock is a popular
for the
time.
old-fashioned in-persons. But do the I should know this and I don't. Do the noon and sundown Zooms survive or do they go away?
No. Odds and Ends went away pretty fast.
Gotcha.
The noon one. And then and Mixed Nuts, I think there's still a Sunday night meeting. But that's the last remnants of it.
Okay.
But, we sort of did it as a placeholder for, in thinking that other meetings would probably pop up, but we needed to have something.
There was no rule book.
There was no rule
Y'all
book.
were writing the rule book.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, this Boozers and Bathrobes, which we live in what's called mountain time, where also daylight savings time is observed. Some states don't. Arizona, I guess. So we're in the time zone nobody's in.
Right.
My whole life has been in Texas or California, so that's Central or Pacific time.
Yep.
And this isn't either. And, you would think I'd have the hang of doing the math in my head. I still show up an hour early or an hour late to things on the phone if I'm not, if I'm in the fog, which I sometimes am. So, it's 7 a.m. here, but let me see. So, you're all
6
over the
a.m. in
place.
California, and we have a lot of people on the West Coast who come to it. We've had, oddly enough, we've had, a really strong international contingent. I mean,
Same with this podcast.
50%, but
Same with this podcast.
Really?
Our second biggest state is California. We're in, I don't know, dozens and dozens of cities there in 18 countries. And we don't promote, we don't advertise. And honestly, I don't know how it's working, but people are listening. Yeah. If you speak European, you should do it now because they're listening there.
Right, exactly.
So on a good day, 300 people or something? Around?
Well, for a while we were, we had initially the Zoom license capped out at I think 100 people, so it was 100.
I see.
It kind of went from 15 of us who knew each other to, and then it grew and it grew
Fast.
Really quickly.
I remember. I was stunned.
Really quickly.
It was a new meeting, and I went online. It was like $150, 200, something like
exactly.
that. Exactly.
We were totally in that 100, 150 to 200 range, and I probably at our max we were at 230, maybe 250. But now it's what I think is really neat is it's really developed a community unto itself. And
it sure has.
And it's one of the things, too, that came out of online meetings is, people want to meet each other physically.
Right.
So out of the Boozers and Bathrobes meeting, people will take road trips and go visit other other members.
I've met some of them here. We're friends with Barry.
Yeah.
My wife's extremely close with him, and so we've had coffee and little hangs, and
with
whatnot.
People rolling through town.
Sure.
It's
well,
really
everybody
neat.
loves to come to Santa Fe. They just usually
Absolutely.
don't it's like something in the back of your head. I'd love to go there sometime. Well, now that gives it more of a reason because they have friends here.
Yep, exactly. And I've done that too. Driving across country, and I'll go see people in Cincinnati or Toronto. It's been really neat. It's been really I think that's a new phenomenon, obviously, since Zoom happened.
As a boomer, I'm on Facebook, and I travel a little now. I did not during pandemic.
Yeah,
and I've got a 9-year-old, so I'm not get around like I used to. But when I do, I'm able to hug people. And I go, okay, this is deceptive because I tell you jokes and I hear about the developments of your family almost every day, and I haven't seen you in 5 or 10 years. It's kind of wacky. Again, my oldest in LA is probably listening to this, rolling his eyes, like, gee, those telephones, and how are you going to keep your time zone straight, boomer? I'm like, God damn it. We do so thank you for accidentally having a hit record.
Exactly. No, and I thought for a while too, pandemic, I didn't learn a language or have a real good pandemic project. And then it was like, wait a minute, we did Boozers,
It's here to stay.
Yeah. And we're 100 between 100 and 125 people every morning still.
It's fantastic.
So, yeah, it's neat. It's really neat. And I think one of the things that we did was we were super consistent about, the typical things that the governance sort of side of a 12-step meeting, how it comes, where we have a regular business meeting. Everything's very well articulated. Everything's really transparent. We have a website. We put all of our...
You sure do.
Yeah, we put all our meeting minutes up there. We put all of our formats are up there. Anybody wants to copy anything, go for it.
It's a knockout. I'm just... love the work you've done on the website. No, it's really spectacular because hang on. My attendance is spotty, and so that's been my experience of it. It is a great meeting that I hear blaring out of our Bluetooth speakers in the morning when I'm running around the house trying to get it together. It might have been in prep for meeting with you. I'm not sure, but I looked. No. Somebody said, "Hey, how do I get on Boozers and Bathrobes?" Yeah. And I kind of told them that I went, I'm handing out advice without really having looked at their online situation, and it's a stunner. It's in a category by itself for thoroughness, and it's fun. It's one of those rabbit holes.
Yeah, good.
Should I say this, man? Well, I go to more Zoom meetings than in-person meetings.
Yeah, me too.
Because of a lot of things. And it's not the reason that I go to Zoom meetings, but it's something I like about Zoom meetings, which is I don't have to pay close attention to each and every speaker.
Right.
Who's this? Why am I saying this? I'm saying this, I think, because...
The secret's out.
I think I'm saying this because if someone is listening to this by themselves, this podcast at this moment, and they go, yeah, I tried a Zoom meeting once, I didn't like it. Or there's nothing like getting a hug and a cup of coffee. Or, yeah, I used to go to those 12-step meetings, but they bored me out of my damn skull. What I'm avoiding saying is there are 10 billion Zoom meetings. They have different atmospheres, one to another. And you don't have to be so goddamn polite. You can get up and go, get something out of the garage, what have you. If you go, I know this person's style. We got 5 minutes of listening to them talk about their cat, and I don't need to hear about their cat. So, go brush your teeth or something. You can't really do that in your normal in-person meeting. So I have an anti-social or bashful side to me, and I'm polite. So if someone's talking, I'll give them my face and I'll listen. But yes, in my brain, in an in-person meeting, I'm often going, man, did I remember to get eggs last week? Because I'm going to cook a recipe tonight that calls for 4 of them. Maybe I need to. And this is what I'm thinking about while they're talking about their cat. I guess here's a message in a bottle. Try Zoom meetings again if it's been a while, or if you've never done it. It's different.
It is different.
And the difference, I've got a dear friend. I was roommates with him in rehab 30 years ago. It turns out, to my surprise, he hates Zoom and he hates online meetings. I kind of love Zoom, and I'm not the best at it because they seem to change their. It's like when you go on Facebook to do this and that, you're like, oh, I used to push that button. It's not working anymore. So Zoom seems to have their own developing technology, and that's not my best, but I feel confident they've tried to make it easy for boomers because, my 26-year-old was born with a third lobe in his brain for computer stuff, and I just don't have it. If a computer doesn't do what I'm trying to get it to do, I'm going to go slit my throat. You know, I can't just jump into the back of it, so to speak, and start making changes. So you guys have 3 years,
right? It has. It's crazy.
Hundreds a day for 3 years. And I know there's a lot of repeat business, but you've touched and exposed countless tens of thousands, countless hundreds of thousands. And how do you think of it as a Santa Fe thing, Santa Fe, New Mexico thing?
It's interesting because we, in our business meetings, one of the questions that we did ask is, what are we? Are we a meeting that happens every day, or, are we, that the Monday meeting is different than the Tuesday meeting, different than the Wednesday meeting, or are we a single meeting that meets 7 days a week? That was a good discussion, a good lively discussion that we had. Okay. We made a decision about whether or not we wanted to have a website, whether or not we wanted to be listed, in the AA service structure, because online groups are kind of in this weird place.
Because of money, because of anonymity? What were the things you were thinking about?
Well, the overall service structure is based on geography, right? We have, there are districts and that are subcomponents of areas, and areas tie roughly to states. And so if you're a meeting happening in Santa Fe, New Mexico, you're part of District 2, which is part of Area 46. But if you're an online meeting, where are you?
Right. Exactly.
Either you decide that you want to be affiliated. But I think AA itself is not really sure how online meetings fit into the service structure, because the service structure is so defined by geography.
When I got sober in 1992, my first sponsor said to me, "You're getting sober at a very interesting time because there are growing pains." I think what he was talking about was what at the time was called cross addiction.
Yep.
That if you mentioned white substances or green substances or powdered substances in certain cranky old timer meetings, you might catch some shit for it. I don't remember much of that. It's I went and saw one of the Beatles this week, and he's 83. So, those of us who weren't strictly on the liquid stuff are of a certain age now.
True.
We're not 20-year-old hippies. I don't know what the thinking is, but come on, wake up. It's I think I got my first computer when I was in my mid 30s, and I was traveling for work then, and I remember I had a laptop and I had a printout, 20 pages of the different phone numbers to call if you were in different cities to get online. And I've still probably got scars in the back of my head from being under hotel desks to plug into the Ethernet and hear the and now I wouldn't consider buying something expensive without researching it online and maybe buying it from London or Russia or South America.
Wherever's cheapest.
Yeah, that's right. Or whatever is, there's price is a factor, but there's other things too. And I live in a remote mountain village, so it used to be if they don't have my size pants at the Levi's store, I'm boned.
Yep.
Those days are gone. But I also remember a world where you would I don't know, get a mortgage or a car note or something, and you'd cut your it was always Delaware. They must have weird tax laws in Delaware or something. Okay, I don't know anything about that. Don't know if I've ever set foot in Delaware, but I've cut a lot of checks to companies that are HQ'd out of there. It's like ships are flagged out of Montenegro.
That's right.
I'm in Miami. What the hell's a Montenegro? I don't know where that is. So yeah, the things are, what's the word, fungible?
Yeah.
And so I am a musician, and I attend a meeting that's heavily, a couple of them actually, but one is basically an LA meeting, and another is, I would call it an Austin meeting, but so many of the people on there are in Santa Fe or Nashville.
Right.
And if you're a working journeyman, the day you dial in, you're God knows where. So to me, it's mostly kind of just a thing to daydream about. Where is this meeting? Mm-hmm. They're in 35 cities right now. But it feels like Santa Fe because that's where I ate lunch.
Yep. So we actually consciously decided to affiliate ourselves with Santa Fe for the first year because that's where we were created.
Yeah.
And then and then as we matured and sort of grappled with this issue, we were like, you know what, we really don't have a geographic tie. We're kind of out there.
Do you have to pay more to get room for 100 or 200 or 300 people on the call? Okay.
You do.
What kind of dollars is that right now?
Oh, it's less than $1,000 a year.
Okay.
So it's pretty doable. We actually had as I mentioned earlier, we had that 100 cap, and then we did a workshop, which on I think it was Drop the Rock, and
I'm sorry, what's Drop the Rock?
It was a workshop that was based on the Drop the Rock story about how you need to sort of lighten yourself.
I get the reference. I just didn't know what it meant here.
And it was run by somebody from LA, and we had a lot of people who wanted to be there, so we bumped up the license, and here we are.
Okay, well that's $20 a week, and you've got hundreds of listeners a day, so you're okay.
And we're totally self-supporting, so the meeting takes care of itself.
Okay, well, what's next? Whither boozers and bathrobes?
I don't know.
What new questions are popping up that you're like, well, we never considered this back in March of 2020 when we just wanted to.
Yeah, I think, part of it was, what are we? And I think another part of it was sort of grappling with the success that we had and trying to figure out, okay, what are our online norms going to be? That was a process.
Now, I believe your policy is to leave the chat window open so people can chat right there, because I know in some meetings it's shut down until after the meeting. Mm-hmm. Have there been arguments and people getting in each other's grill?
Yep. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of people who put inappropriate stuff in the chat. We try to remind people that everyone can see the chat. We also, have a pretty aggressive policy of bouncing people who are kind of disobeying our sort of norms.
Boy, another advantage to Zoom.
Yes, exactly.
When you go to a club that's got a Romeo or a money, pain in the ass or whatever, you get 20 people looking at each other going, well, somebody ought to do something.
Right.
And I'm 5'6". I'm not doing anything about anybody.
Yeah. So that was key. The other thing that we do is we don't have a strict policy of muting and unmuting people after they put their hands up. We leave it so that anybody can unmute at any time. And, hopefully people are respectful of each other. So again, that, policy of being able to bounce people out has been really key for people who want to come in and disrupt.
But I'm guessing it's a small problem.
Yeah,
considering the size
it's a small problem. It's gotten smaller as everything has matured and as we become more comfortable with being in an online place and what we're expected to do or not expected to do. That problem of bombers coming in has dropped.
Bombers,
that's right.
I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. I remember the pornography things, like really lively pornography popping up. That's old news, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's not old news, but I think part of it's been the fact that Zoom was new and Zoom was everywhere and people were doing classes in Zoom and kids, I think your prototypical bomber is probably 13-year-old male, right?
Well, boomer.
Yeah, exactly.
Put her there. I congratulate you. I thank you. And it's been enlightening and fun for me to get to know you better. You rock, Spencer. And I think it's important that we people with weird names.
That's right.
Stick here. You'd be surprised. My name is Sherman, and I've answered to Spencer and Marshall. And what did I get last week from my teacher of 2 years? Sebastian. So anything that kind of has an S and an M in it.
Yeah, I get Patrick a lot. I don't know why. But
we learn Marshall. I get a lot, and so you learn that's how folds in the human brain work. It just must jump over.
Yeah.
So,
although it was handy, for a while you didn't have to leave your last name, right? In business.
Love it. Yeah.
Leaving a message. It was like Spencer. It's the only Spencer he knows.
We'll do it. I get Spencer a lot. You'd be surprised. And Stuart, yeah. All right, so weird names and coffee and recovery. That's us.
There you go.
Thanks, pal. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you.